Hey, what's going on, guys? Angel Ross here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're taking it to raw cuts 3. Alright, so today we're going to be doing a faded beard. What I'm going to do is I'm going to taper out the sides. I'm going to make it it's going to give his face more of a longer look, make him look a little slimmer in the face. A lot of guys like this look. Especially for special events and stuff like that. You know, when you fade that beard out, it just gives you that slender look. So it's a technique that you really want to learn, especially as a beginner barber. It's going to make your clients really happy being able to do something like this, because a lot of barbers really don't know how to do this technique properly, and a lot of clients really don't know about this technique. So sometimes when you throw this in there, you could really catch your clients off guard a little bit with something kind of special that I really like to introduce to my clients. So here it is, man, faded beard. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're really gonna brush this beard down. We're gonna take a look at it and see what the growth pattern is of the hair. Make sure we know where the strand of hair goes, where it grows, especially if it's a first time cutting a client. You wanna make sure you know exactly where those lines are. You wanna make sure that you just get it nice and even on both sides. So you wanna make sure you brush that hair and just take a look at your beard before you start. A lot of times we want to just rush into it, but really taking a step back and looking at the beard and trying to figure out exactly where it's going to fall on both sides. You know, if you're going to fade it underneath the ear, if you're going to keep it a little bit above, just making sure that both sides are even. A lot of times guys like to go home and shave their own beards, so they'll have like lines you got to kind of fix and blend out. So you want to make sure you step back and just take a look at it, brush the beard down before you get started. So my first step is gonna be setting my guideline. Just like any other fade, you're gonna need a guideline. So again, I'm gonna brush it down and I'm gonna set my guideline. I'm gonna use my Andis Master closed all the way, meaning my lever's all the way closed. I'm cutting as much hair as I can with this master, but it's not gonna get all the way bald like it would with my T-edger, my T-outliner, or my shaver. So that's gonna give me a little bit of room to be able to knock that line out when I get ready to start or end my fade. So I'm gonna fade his just a little bit underneath the ear. So I'm gonna start the guideline right underneath his earlobe. And again, just like any other guideline, you wanna make sure that it's nice and straight. This is what's gonna determine your fade. This is your base start right here. So you want to make sure you get a nice foundation. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And again, I'm measuring it by that bottom of the earlobe. I'm just going to go ahead and get that out. And you always want to step back, take a look at it, make sure that your lines are nice and even. And that looks pretty good. Now with my cordless edger from Andis, we're gonna bald that out just a little further, but we're gonna stay right above that guideline, right above it. And I'm just gonna get a little closer to the skin. So as I'm doing this, I'm stretching out the skin and I'm making sure that I'm getting that T-edger nice and close to the skin to get as close as possible with this blade right here. It is zero gap, but just stretching that skin just gives you a little bit of a closer shave. Now I'm gonna take my shaver and I'm gonna work right above that T-edger line. And again, stretching the skin out to get a closer shave. Now for the beginning stages of this fade on the beard, I'm gonna start with a bigger guard and I'm just gonna kind of glide it along the beard line, because I don't want to get too close to his chin line. I want the beard to kind of just follow his cheek line. I don't want to go too far into his jawline. I want to make sure I stay right outside of that cheek line, because once you start going in, you're gonna take too much off of the beard. What you want is you want it to just lay flat and just give him that longer look. So I'm gonna start close on the top, and then I'm just gonna glide that trimmer down I'm gonna take that same 4 guard, this is a 4, closed, and I'm gonna run it against the grain right on top. Now when I'm going against the grain, I'm staying on the cheeks, I'm not gliding, I'm staying right on the cheekbone. All right, so now this is the beginning stages of my guideline. Yeah, this is a guideline set, but I feel like right now this is exactly where I want to be when I say that I wanted to set a guideline, because I know that this right here is a 4 guard. So now I can continue my fade just right here with a 3, a 2, a 1, a half guard, and a 0. So my fade is going to stay right here, and it's just like anything else, like a taper fade, but we're doing it backwards. We're just going to be fading up. So if you know how to do a taper fade, this is going to be a much easier technique. If you don't, that's okay. This is gonna help you. So I started with a 4 guard. Now I'm gonna switch off to a 3, open. And I'm gonna start fading out this just using the very corner of my blade. And I'm using a comb right now because the hair is still a little longer. Once I get down to the shorter guards, like a 2 or a 1, I can start using a brush. For right now, the comb is gonna do the job. Now I'm gonna close it halfway, and I'm moving just a little bit up, maybe about a 1/4 inch. Still using the very corner of that blade and just starting to knock out that weight line. Now I'm gonna close all the way, same thing. Moving up a little bit, just knocking out that weight. Now I'm gonna work with a 2 guard open. Same thing, corner of the blade. And I'm moving up just about a 1/4 inch. Now I'm gonna close all the way. Same thing, using the corner of that blade, just knocking that line out. Now I'm gonna move down to a 1 guard. And as you can tell, the hair is getting a little shorter along the beard line. So I'm gonna start using my brush just to get that extra hair out of the way. Because sometimes if you see them little hairs, you might think there's a line, but there's really not. So you wanna make sure you get all that out of the way and work as clean as possible. And again, stretching the skin. When you stretch the skin, it's gonna help that clipper get closer, but it's also gonna give you more room to work with. So I'm just stretching it out, and again using the corner of that blade. Now I'm going to close all the way. And as you can see right here on his hair, if you can see that right there, his hair grows back. So when the hair grows that way in different patterns, you're gonna have to be able to realize and look at that and use your clipper and go against it. So you really gotta pay attention to the growth patterns, because if you were to just go up and down, you're gonna leave little patches. But you wanna make sure you get that nice and smooth, so you're gonna wanna hit it against the grain. So always keep your eyes open for the growth pattern, and just making sure you know which way that hair grows. Now I'm using a half guard and this all the way open. And you can already see our fade starting to come in. You see the lighter going into the darker beard. And now all we're working on is this little area right here. The rest of this is already blended. So we're gonna close that half guard halfway and continue to work the corner of that blade right there. I'm gonna close it all the way. Now you can see a couple little dark spots, and I'm gonna get that out just using my Andis no guard all the way open. Still using the very corner of the blade. Now I'm gonna close it a little bit. Now if you remember, we set our initial guideline using the Andis all the way closed. So by the time you get to your Andis about halfway, that line should almost be erased. You might see just a couple little spots, and they should be really easy to get. And the reason why, this is the reason why we did use just our master. If you use a T-edge or a straight shaver, you're gonna struggle to get that line out. So what you wanna do is you always wanna set your guideline using your master all the way closed. And then I'm just gonna go and just get the little details out. Now I'm gonna begin edging the back of his beard. And I wanna try to keep this as natural as possible. And really with the beard, you just want it to sit right behind the back of the ear. So once you see the line starting right here, you just follow that all the way down. Don't go in, don't pull it too far out. Just straight down from that ear. The ear is gonna be your guideline for a lot of your beard work. Making sure both sides are even, making sure this line is straight down. Always be well aware of the ear. Now with the mustache, most of the time the perfect length for me has been a 1 guard closed, and I like to go with the grain. And that's not for everybody as far as that length, but for a lot of guys, I've found that that is like my go-to length when it comes to cutting down the mustache. Unless some guys kind of like it bushier, then you might want to go with a bigger guard. But for me, that 1 guard close has been a pretty perfect length. Keeps the mustache dark, but it lays it down. Now you can just kind of glide it throughout. If you see any hair, just kind of freehand that. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and just finish this other side so we can get into the line work. We're gonna do some color enhancements. So I'm just gonna go ahead and run through this side since we already seen that side. I don't wanna bore you too much. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this, and then we'll get into the line work, a hot towel, and maybe some enhancements. All right, so before I lay him back and put the towel on him and start doing my line work, I'm gonna make sure I get this hair off the bottom of the lip using my Andis edger. And I'm just gonna use the very corner of this blade and just start lining the bottom of the lip. I always like to do this while my client's sitting up, because laying back, it's just hard to see. And you wanna make sure it's nice and even, because this bottom line is almost your guideline to your top line. If this is crooked, your top line 9 out of 10 times is gonna come out crooked. So you wanna make sure you get that bottom line nice and straight, nice and even. All right, so for today's shave, I'm gonna be using one of my personal products, Rain by Angel Raws. This is a product I really love using in the shop, not only because it's one of my personal products, but for the simple fact that I can retail this product to my clients because it's a 3-in-1. It's a shave, a body wash, and a shampoo. This product will be available this July at angelross.co. So make sure you guys stay tuned, be on the lookout, and always support, the barbers in the industry. So now that I got them lathered up, I'm going to apply my hot towel. You always want to make sure your client's nice and relaxed, so I like to cover their eyes. Just make sure I'm creating that whole experience. A lot of barbers think that it's about the end result, but it's actually the in-between that counts for me. The actual service and taking care of my clients is what's actually helped me build a lot of clientele, not so much the end result, because I've not always been as talented or the most talented in the room. But when you actually apply the work and you make your client feel like somebody, I feel like that plays a big part in building clientele. So now I'm gonna unwrap. I'm gonna brush off some of that extra product. We're gonna begin our line work. As you're doing it, you always want to make sure you look at the other side to make sure your lines are nice and even. So sometimes you see, as you can tell, he's shaved previously, or he might have got a haircut a couple weeks ago, so it hasn't fully grown in. So I don't want to leave this side too high, because then I won't be able to match it up to this side. So you can see this side's a little lower. So I'm going to go back and just lower this side just a little bit. And when you're doing this very corner, I'm just using that very back of the blade just to give me a nice sharp line right there in that corner. Now again, I'm gonna step back, take a look at it before I start, make sure I get them nice and even, then I can begin my line work. So now this is the tricky, fun part for me, but tricky when you're just starting out. It's the mustache, especially with a razor blade. You want to be very careful on this very top part of the mustache, because you can easily cut your client. So just make sure that you have your client bite his lip, and then you want to pull up on the nose. Pulling up on the nose is going to stretch that top part of the lip, and it's going to give you a better shave. As you work your way down, you want to start pulling that lip up. And just being very careful. Again, you always want to take a step back, turn your client if you need to. Just take a look, make sure everything's nice and even. All right, so now we're gonna move on to our enhancements. We're gonna give the beard a sharper look, just using a little bit of my favorite product, Kiss. This is a semi-permanent color. I'm using black today because this beard's pretty dark, and I feel like I can blend that in. And I'm using a Just for Men brush. I've cut the back side of the bristles off. You don't need a lot, especially when you're just doing the line work. Once you get to filling in, then you can use a little bit more, but you really don't need a lot of product on that brush. I'm just gonna start my line, just following that line that's already there. You want to brush it in. As you can see, I didn't use a lot of color. I really just wanted to set a good line. I can go back and fill in, make it just a little darker. And obviously I'm going darker more towards the bottom because this side is blended, so this hair is a little bit shorter. If you go too dark on the short side, it's not gonna blend into the hair because the hair is a lot lighter on this side. So you wanna keep your darkness in the front and try to blend it out. Just like you faded the beard, you wanna try to fade this color out. Then I'm gonna go back with my razor. I'm just gonna touch it up. But sometimes when you're doing it with the brush, we're not perfect, so we might go over the line a little bit. If you catch it early enough before that color dries, you're gonna be able to get it off with the razor. So you wanna go back and just kind of scrape that color right onto the line. Add just a little bit to the mustache. Now again, I'm gonna look at my beard, make sure it's nice and even. I'm gonna start to apply the color on the other side. All right, so now we've finished up the beard as far as the line work, the fade. Now we're just gonna shape it up and give him that finishing look. Give him a couple finishing touches, make sure the beard is nice and even. Make sure we get any of these straggly hairs, and then he'll be on his way. So I'm gonna start by picking the hair out really nice, just so I can see everything that's loose, all the split ends. Make sure that my fade is nice and even on both sides. I'm just gonna freehand. I got my master completely closed. And this is where a black or a white cape comes in handy. Most of the time your beards are gonna be darker colored, so you wanna use the lighter cape. I'm using a black cape today, but if you do have a white cape, you might wanna try to use that. That way you can see every little strand of hair. He has a couple grays, so they kind of stand out on this black cape. So that's gonna kind of help me out a little bit. But if you do have a white cape, I would suggest either a white or a gray. That way you can see every little hair when you're shaping it. And I'm really just grazing over the beard, just all them little loose hairs. Now I'm gonna finish it off with a curved shear. I'm just gonna kind of touch up these little bottom hairs. Now for my finishing touch, I just want to freeze the beard and keep it right there where it is. So I'm gonna use a little bit of hairspray. This is also one of my products that'll be coming out in July. Rain by Angel Ross. Really great hairspray. I'm just gonna give them a light mist just to kind of hold it in place. All right, so this concludes our faded beard tutorial. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them below. I'll make sure to respond as quickly as possible. If you guys know someone that might enjoy this video, please share it with a friend, share it with a buddy. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, make sure you do. I got a lot more coming.